Tonight we are talking about how to reframe what's possible, and that is our theme tonight. And we are doing this theme in celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Achilles Hope and Possibility Race and 20 years of disability inclusion. My name is Annick Lamar. I am a coach at NYRR Roadrunners, and I'm delighted to be moderating this panel today. We've got some expert guests. They're truly phenomenal folks in their field, and they're the perfect people to talk to about how to reframe what's possible. And so let's get right into it. I'm going to introduce our panelists. We might have a special guest later join us. But to kick it off, at the very top, we have Paul Ortolano, who is the Director of Event Operations at NYRR Roadrunners. So hello, Paul.
Good evening, and thank you.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you, Paul. All right, then we have Francesco Maggizzano. I just asked you. Francesco, we are so happy to have you as the director of the New York City Metro Region Tri-Achilles at Achilles International. So welcome.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, delighted. All right, and then Jessica Hayon, Achilles New York City hand cyclist. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump right into this. I've got a lot of questions for you tonight, and all in celebration of this Achilles Hope and Possibility race, and just about your experiences, both professional, both as athletes, whether race directors, advocates. It's a really awesome time to celebrate these 20 years of collaboration and celebration. And so, Paul, can you give us a little bit of a brief overview of the partnership throughout the years with NYRR Roadrunners and Achilles, and what's come from that partnership?
Yeah, well, this partnership started many, many years ago, even prior to me joining the organization over 15 years ago. And the phenomenal thing about the partnership that we have, it's just always looking for those opportunities to really provide opportunities for everybody at all abilities and at all levels. And that's clearly what we do with Achilles and with this event, the Hope and Possibilities event. During my stint at NYRR Roadrunners in working directly with Achilles for over 10 years, I also helped develop the youth wheelchair training program that we have going on. There's many things that we found inclusive ways to have participate in our events. Obviously, hand cycles go way back with NYRR Roadrunners as well as the New York City Marathon. We created opportunities for the exoskeletons to participate in our events. About 7 years ago, we introduced duo teams to the TCS New York City Marathon. And then also just creating those special moments for individuals that have really been striving for many years to accomplish something. And then we create opportunities to make sure that they finish it. And so that's really been the electricity that goes on with me and my relationship with Achilles International.
Yeah, no, you're right, Paul. It's been a multi-year experience, and we're so thankful that they want to partner with us and bring their excellent energy and athletes. And I love that you said, I think you said electricity or something like that, because that's what it feels like when this race comes around. It's been going on for so long. It's we love all our races at the NYRR Roadrunners, but I think this is one that we can comfortably say we love almost most of all, because it's just such a powerful, important race for us. And if you are in New York City, perhaps you are doing our in-person 4-mile race, which is on Sunday, June 26th at 8:15, just in case you are participating at Central Park. But if you are unable to join in person and you want to just join for fun, there is a virtual race, and you can participate from anywhere. So you can log your 4 miles either once or collectively anytime between now and June 26th. And don't forget to use the #GoAchilles hashtag on social media to help raise awareness. But let us, before we jump in, as a reminder to our viewers, you can always give shout outs, questions in the chat of our panelists. So anything they say you want them to unpack and say more about. And always, we just love to know where you're listening from as well. So in the chat, light it up. We'll get to those comments and questions. But let's get right into it. All right. Francesco, I'm going to start with you. So let's talk a little bit about the idea of reframing and why it's important when dealing with obstacles, good runs, bad runs. As a coach, I always think of this as a really important tool to have in a toolbox. But what is reframing? How do you define it? And how have you seen it in action?
Yeah, definitely. So for those who don't know, I'm a totally blind runner. And also with my job with Achilles, I come in contact with a lot of different runners and wheelers of all different disabilities. And runners who don't have any disabilities. And one thing I notice with myself and with others is we tend to focus on the things that we have no control over. And so what I try to do, both with myself and with the athletes I coach and oversee, is just reframing that, right? To focus on things we do have control over. For example, why stress about, oh, I didn't have enough, mileage coming into a certain race. I got sick right before, things like that honestly, we don't have any power to change. And instead focus on the things like mindset, attitude, positivity that we do have complete control over, and honestly probably make a bigger difference in a race outcome than those other factors.
Yeah, I love that, right? I think you're so right. We really tap into those sort of things that we can't change. Whereas, having a really strong framing and a strong sense of outcome and purpose and drive, like those things actually have a lot of impact on performance. And so I love how you sort of laid that out for us. Jess, my question to you is, how do you respond when someone tells you you can't do something or it's impossible?
So for everyone to know, I've been in a wheelchair for about 20 years. I'm a manual wheelchair user. I'm constantly told no. And to be very honest, that's not an answer that I accept. I always find a way around things. There's always a way to do something. As a wheelchair user in your daily life, all you face is obstacles all day, a broken elevator, subway, anything like that. So it's very easy once you get into the adaptive cycling world to figure out what to do when you need to do it.
Can I ask you a little bit about the adaptive cycling world? And what is some of the, when did you start racing, and what is some of the sort of information that you've had access to that's changed the way that you've been able to participate in sports?
So actually, before being involved with Achilles, I started working out with them in 2014. I had no physical ability to my knowledge. I wasn't involved in any sports. And I did a bunch of Google searches and found it that way, and showed up at a workout Saturday in Central Park. And it was so inviting and amazing. And they really work with you to see which bike is right for you, just the ins and outs of how to hand cycle. And everyone's also very, works with each other, so you can partner up with someone. I have a great mentor, really learning about the hand cycle and how to operate it.
Was there a learning curve? I'm so interested when you started using the hand cycle. Tell me about this mentor you had. What was that relationship like?
Okay, so my mentor, he's probably listening, Caesar. He's like the best. He's also an Achilles athlete. He's part of the Freedom team. So I was working out with him for years and years, and probably the most interesting story is, so everything stopped with COVID, and then when we came back this past year, when I did the New York City Marathon, I actually beat my personal best by 45 minutes. So I know, it's very surprising. You're probably gonna look into me and be like, what did you do? Did you take a different course? No, I actually learned how to use the bike better. First I really thought it was like working out. I'm just gonna work out like crazy and then I'll be really strong and I can achieve what I want. But because it's a bike, there are gears, you have to learn how to shift and really feel the road that you're riding on. So with the help of Caesar, I finally got to the point that I wanted to be. So I came in second for female for the New York City hand cyclist this year, which I was so thrilled by, and it allowed me to enter into Boston.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. 45 minutes, right? Like you said,
yeah,
minutes?
A lot, minutes.
That's like a coach's dream, is like 45. I'm happy if someone gives me like a 1-minute PR. 45 minutes is phenomenal. No, I love that. I love that how you say you like feel the ground. I think that's like one of those things the mentor really helps you find. And I think it's cool that you've had such access to that community. All right, Francesco, I'd love to know a little bit about how you got involved in Achilles and what your journey has been like with this group.
Yeah, so prior to journeying, I had not run further than I'd say down the block chasing an ice cream truck. Like I was not an endurance athlete whatsoever. And one day I was shopping in a grocery store and some guy who I didn't know walked up to me, saw my cane, right? Because I'm totally blind. He was like, "Hey, you're blind. You should join this group in Central Park. They meet." And I was like, "All right, I guess, sure." And I went home, I Googled it to make sure it wasn't like some kind of cult or anything. And I was like, "Oh, this is actually a cool group that looks like they have people participating." And so I showed up the next weekend. That was 2017. 5 years later, here we are. So it was, I mean, it's definitely a life-changing thing, right? Where I didn't realize as a blind person that I could run or do any sort of physical thing, let alone participate in, multiple marathons and things like that and triathlons. So it's life-changing to say the absolute least.
Yeah, I love a nosy New Yorker is the origin story. like a classic, can't mind their own business, but it worked out. New Yorker is how you got where you are. No, I love that, and I think it's so powerful too, because you're both talking about both of you have said I didn't think I was an athlete. Sports maybe wasn't something that was interesting, and Achilles is really what was able to say we want you here. This is a place where we're going to give you all the skill set. And I think that mirrors so much of just sports in general. So so glad that Achilles was not a cult, and obviously just an awesome organization, sports organization. Paul, I'd love to turn to you. So you've got this event production background. You've been doing events for a long time. Talk to us a little bit about how athletes or guides or race directors can support disability inclusion and create spaces where there are less no's and there's more yeses.
Oh, definitely. So one of the big things that I'll emphasize with organizations as well as individuals, if you are or are willing to go out and participate at an event, what you want to do is you want to find a champion. You want to find someone in that organization or within that race environment that is going to support you. And it's important to find the right person in this. It's not finding a person who wants to sit on the board of some organization or something like that. It's someone who has a passion for what they're doing and what it is that will help you achieve what you want to achieve. So, the good thing with me is, I've been in the sports arena for many decades. And, with my endurance background starting at Walt Disney World, I was the technical director of the Walt Disney World Marathon Weekend many years ago prior to joining New York Roadrunners. And that's really where I started getting introduced to athletes with impairments and seeing what they were struggling with just at local events in the Florida area. And that really triggered something in my mind is how can we find ways to include these individuals to make them part of the event, to make them feel that they can achieve and move forward with that. So that's kind of where my journey started. When I moved to New York and was working with New York Roadrunners and being introduced to Achilles International, as well as other groups in the area, it was a passion of mine to make sure that there were avenues that would be open for people to try different things in their lives. As I mentioned earlier, the exoskeleton, we worked with Mount Sinai and their program with the exoskeletons where individuals are not able to walk at all, but they're able to put this device onto their body and actually walk. So we introduced that a few years ago at the Fifth Avenue Mile. And it's just moving, showing how we can get people of quote unquote, all levels of disabilities to participate and be part of. So those are the big things is find the champions out there that are going to support you and or your organizations. As far as the race directors out there, again, we want everybody to have an open mind. Know that there are individuals in your communities that want to participate, but as you heard earlier, they're getting no all the time. Let's find ways to include them, even if it's in a small way. just build from that. And that's what New York Roadrunners has done. We put small building blocks together to achieve what we're doing now and making things happen for the impaired community. And then as far as the athletes are concerned, it's, the can-do attitude. The reason why these athletes are reaching out to us is because they already set the goal. I want to run a 10K. I want to whale a marathon. And what we try to do is make sure that those long-term goals have some short-term building blocks. So, i.e., if you want to do the marathon, come out and do a 5K, do a 10K, do a half marathon before you strive for that long-term goal. So those are the elements. There's always things to build up to, and we just say continue to build up to achieve that long-term goal.
Yeah, thanks so much, Paul. I think there's so much that we can continue to do, and make sure we have more yeses than nos. We're not going to take a break. I'm going to do a little shout out here, and that shout out is going to be to our friends at TD Bank for their commitment to inclusion and partnering with Achilles. They are proud partners of this race and of Achilles as well. So shout out to TD. And we've got a couple other shout outs we're going to do before we get to our panelists, because they've got stories. Y'all got good stories. You're making me laugh. So let's get to our shout outs and we'll get back to some stories. Michael says, Paul wins the top prize for room background. That is true. Paul has a really nice room background. So shout out to you, Paul. You did it. Congrats. And we're showing the room background in real time. Kids aren't all. Lexi says, keep up the good work. Steve says, hello from New Jersey. Love this chat. John says, hi. Gail says, hello from Long Island. Jenna says, thank you to TD Bank for all your support. Go Achilles. Caitlin says, Achilles runner, doing the 4 mile on Sunday, training for NYC in November. Shout out to anybody who's training for the marathon during the summer heat. You are my heroes, because it is hot. Shout out from David, says, watching from Queens. Terrell says, TD is a proud partner of this race and an amazing org, and this amazing org. Latricia says, awesome. Joseph says, so great, Francesco. Jack says, Sunday's 4 mile race is going to be great. So much good energy. Rebecca says, always love this story, Francesco. And then Jenna says, you're the best pal, Paul. So I feel like we've got a lot of love going on in that chat. All right, but let's get back to it. Jess, I want to come back to you. Tell me about what was the moment, if you can find the moment, when you went from I can't to I can. With Achilles, right? So you start coming to practices, you are out there, you're learning the hand cycle. Was there a moment where you went from I can't to I can, or were you always an I can kind of person? Because I'll support that as well.
If I can be very honest, I was always an I can kind of person. Actually, my first ride out, I didn't really know what I was doing. It was my first time out. I ended up crashing. And I still showed up the next week. So you just keep going. You just have to keep doing what you want to do. If I have a goal in my head, that is what I'm going to achieve.
Okay, I want to bottle up your good attitude and give it to every athlete I've ever coached. What do you think is the origin of that? I went to the practice, it ended in a crash. I still was jazzed to come back the next week. What do you think is the origin of your attitude? Because I think it's really, as Francesco was saying, it's really powerful and it's such an important part of athletic training and success. What do you think that is?
Well, so I know I touched on it before, but I really think it's having a disability. So my whole life, it's very much, you can't do this. Oh, you have to do that. You have to do it this way, or it's just a mentality that you've had your whole life. So this is just another thing on the list where like, I can do it, I'll figure it out. So yeah, there was really no question for me of not being able to do it or not coming back.
Yeah, it's like the mindset of the only way is forward. And I think you really embody that energy of like, I'll find a way to make it happen. Francesco, to you, was there ever a moment where you were like, I can't, you had a good run and then you were like, I can, or are you like Jess? and you came out always positive?
That's a very good question. I can't remember when I wasn't a can person, because if I wasn't, I don't think I would have showed up to Achilles. That being said, I mean, we see every day athletes who come, and just by learning about what they're capable of, right? They're slowly changing the mindset from not really I can't, but can I do this ? To yes, I can, period. Right. And so I think everybody, right, you decide at one point in your life and you continue making the decision that you're either the type of person to do something or you're not, right? You're either going to full send it or you're not. And so you got to make that decision, just do it, basically.
Yeah, it's, this train is moving, you get on the train, or you're going to see the train pass you by. I'd love to know a little bit more about you see so many athletes in your work. What would you say is, I think you said, I can ? What do you think turns the I can ? For them into I can ! Like, what are some of the factors that happen at Achilles, or what are some of the energy? What is the space like? Like, describe it for us.
It's very community oriented. People show up, myself included, thinking it's going to be a workout group. And it starts off being a workout group. And then you start making friends, you start making long lasting relationships, and it becomes more than a workout group. It becomes a family that you're going to turn up to in January when it's hailing outside, and you turn up to run anyway, just because you want to see your friends, And we very, very proudly say we very rarely cancel. And in the time I've been part of Achilles, we've canceled like twice in many, many years. So clearly we don't really cancel, and it's because people want to see their friends, right? And so, yeah, reframing can I with a ? To I can. It's all based on discovery and experience and just doing things, right? You set a small attainable goal, and that maybe it's not even attainable. Maybe it's just a goal. You set it, you conquer it. It's like, oh, wow, if I could do that, what else can I do, right? And just keep pushing the limits. And that's what so many of our athletes do, Jess included.
I love this idea too, that you make friends, and the friends are what convince you to go out and go in a hailstorm, go out in the rain and actually participate. Is the friendship, right? And the community aspect, that's such a really powerful energizer for all athletes. And Achilles absolutely has that going on at their practices. Okay, so we have in the chat, Emily asks for both Jess and Francesco, what are your goals for this year?
Jess, you want to go?
Jess, why don't you kick it off, Jess?
Okay. My goals for this year. So, excuse me, I keep mentioning. So my new goal is I want to do a century ride, which is 100 miles. I have not done one of those yet. So that is my long-term goal. Hopefully I can do it this year, but otherwise it'll be a long-term goal. So that is my immediate goal, I would say.
A small goal,
That's
something
awesome.
just, couple
It's
miles,
just a little,
or
just a little bit.
100
Yeah.
miles.
Just a little.
Where are you gonna attempt the century?
I don't know. I still have to research it, but it's something that's just I've been thinking about as a goal that I haven't achieved yet that I would like to achieve. So.
Outstanding. All right, Francesco, what about you?
Oh man, I don't know. I have the marathon coming up, New York City Marathon, Ironman. I'd say, so I've never actually properly trained for a marathon, and I feel like I should probably do that one of these days. So I think a goal is to actually train for New York City Marathon properly. So yeah, I think that's good.
We co-sign that. I co-sign. As a coach, I got to co-sign that too. Yeah. I also,
Long runs
you've
are
done
helpful.
New York. Yeah, you've done New York though, right?
Several times, yeah.
Have you? So, okay, so you've, I like how you can just, the idea of just, you were just able to do it. And then maybe this time I'll actually train for it and knock it out. All right, spinning the question a little bit.
The question of the can I ? It's not always about disability. Sometimes I didn't really train for this. Can I do it? Yeah, sure. Let's go. Send it. See what happens, right? So it's not always a deep meaning oh, I'm blind. Am I able to do this? It's sometimes just wow, my longest run was 10 miles. Send it and see what happens.
26.2 is a humbling distance. And sometimes that's the truth. But you've obviously, even without training, are able to crush the distance. Francesca, what is your favorite race to do? Do you have a certain race that is most fun for you? I feel it's a loaded. I feel like you have to say the Achilles Hope and Possibility race, but in real talk, what is your favorite race?
This is gonna sound really cheesy, but I love races where I know people that I really care about who are also participating, who are sharing in it. And so, yes, this is Achilles Hope and Possibility. This is, one of the reasons why I love this race so much is that I know hundreds of people that I coach or a part of or oversee or just friends with, and some of them are enemies, some of them are sort of nemesis of mine, and we're all just going to share the race course together, and it's going to be epic, and that's why I love it so much.
All right, and Jess, frenemies? I didn't think we were going to get frenemies out of the chat today. Are they rival racers? I need to unpack this. Are they people rival racers? You have not seen trash talk to get a bunch of folks who can't see next to each other trash talking each other. It's amazing. So if anyone else who wants to see it, come see me at the band show on Sunday. Register for the race. And you're gonna trash talk? Is that's like one of the activations on race day? Unofficial activation is a trash talk session.
If that'll drive registration, yes.
Yes, you heard it here first. After the race, we've got awards. We've got like an awesome amount of awards and all sorts of different categories. I love this about the race. So it really is meant to celebrate everyone finishing the race. But there's also a trash talk session after the race. Francesco has promised it right here. Jess, what is your favorite race? Do you have frenemies, and do we need to shout them out as well?
I don't think I have any frenemies. And I do love the Hope and Possibility, but I would say that the New York City Marathon is my favorite race. Even after doing Boston, still, I'm a New Yorker. I loved riding on the streets of New York City, seeing the buildings, everyone going through all the boroughs. It's the most exciting, I think.
Yeah, I think that's it's a journey, right? You actually get to go on a journey. Yeah. It's the only time we get to click on all the roads. That way. Mm-hmm. Paul, I'd love to come back to you. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about the youth wheelchair training program. Because this is one of our smallest programs at New York Roadrunners. And I don't think folks always know about it, but it's one of my favorite programs. And can you just share a little bit about what that program is, what it does? And so folks maybe keep a lookout if they see any of our rising athletes out there racing on race day.
Yeah, well, what we have to do is we have to start off with talking about the Rising New York Roadrunners, which is our youth program, which is a program that reaches out to New York City public school system, as well as schools nationally and internationally. We move kids and we provide events throughout the year in the New York City area for these kids to participate in. So as part of getting everybody to move, again, talking about all abilities, is I'm going to say about 5 or 6 years ago, working with Dorian, who's part of our professional team, we decided we wanted to try to go and reach out to youth that were impaired and they would need to use a racing wheelchair. So this program, again, is one of those programs that they meet on Saturdays, and we have 3 outstanding coaches from the New York tri-state area that assist us with this program. And what they do is they teach these kids how to get into the racing chairs and how to utilize these racing chairs. And the great thing about it is that these kids are actually coming out to some of our Rising New York Roadrunner events and participating with the other youth. It's absolutely spectacular. But it's really, really awesome. And the other huge part of this is all of our professional wheelchair athletes, or I shouldn't say all, but I'm going to say probably 95% of them have been instrumental in this program, where many of them have gone out and either found chairs for the kids or donated chairs, and they're donating their time, etc. So it's just a really outstanding program that's reaching out to the youth to make sure that they know that there are opportunities for them to move in the sporting arena.
Yeah, it's as if when Jess was saying that the importance of a role model, right, to really excel at the sport. and having to know the ins and outs and having the professional athletes on site with our rising New York road runners is always phenomenal because they're tremendous professional athletes, and they also just know how to do push rim and how to just really be just great racers, and they can share those tips with the athletes as well. All right, well, before we come back to our chat, Paul, you got something else? You got anything?
No, you're good.
You got something? No, you're good. Okay. I didn't know if you had any frenemies that you wanted me to shout out. I was like ready to give you the floor for that one. I'm like stuck on the frenemies. I'm like really hyped on this now. Let's do some shout outs, and then I have a couple more questions here. Y'all are very popular. I just want to let you know, I do a lot of chats at New York Roadrunners, and I have to say, this is one of the more interesting shout outs. We have, people are just like yelling the words TD Dank, exclamation point. That's really exciting. Go Achilles. They sharing, cheers to Achilles. Jess, with that mindset, you're unstoppable, says Alice. Bill says, everyone there is so awesome. Everyone's just so impressed. Achilles Queens, we have a very specific borough shout out, so I want to elevate that one. Aaron says, so excited for Sunday. They did their first Hope and Possibility at the 10-year anniversary, leading the virtual race in Connecticut, and have 13 from Connecticut heading into the park. Amazing, Jess. You crush it if you train. Emily's saying you should probably train. Michael says, go Amy, you're going to crush it on Sunday. Oh, now they're just talking to each other. I'm completely superfluous at this point. And then we're closed with thanks to TD Bank for the support of 20th anniversary of Hope and Possibility. We're so excited for Sunday. All right, ever so delicately, let's switch gears in our chat here. And I'd love to start with Francesco. I'd love for you to unpack what folks can do to create more inclusive sporting spaces for athletes with disabilities. What are some of the things that you've seen work in your work? And what are the things that maybe we still need to do to have sports be a place for social change?
Yeah, I think a huge part of it is attitude, right? The difference that we see so often between inclusivity and not is just the attitude of whoever is helping to facilitate it, right? When it's a cliche to say where there's a will, there's a way, but it really is that case. Athletics specifically, what we're talking about right now. And so I just encourage anyone, whether you're a race director or a volunteer or a runner, basically anybody, instead of asking, right, can this be done, right? Can you have someone who's blind run a marathon? Can you have someone in a wheelchair do, a triathlon, whatever it is? Like, it could all be done, right? So then the question becomes, how can we make it happen? And that requires, right, consulting what has been done in the past, obviously involving the person that we're dealing with. All of these are just details, right? At the end of the day, it just becomes, yes, we can do it. How can we make it happen in the best way possible? Roadrunners and Achilles, we've worked together for a long time to make this happen. And it leads to other things, right? It's not just, as a blind person, I'm able to do a marathon. It leads to social inclusion. It leads to inclusion in just the public space and people's minds, right? We get so many people to Achilles just because they see the runners with disabilities and wheelers participating with the neon shirts in the marathon. They're spectators, and they see someone run by, and they never saw someone with a disability run before. And so making it that visible is also what really, really helps.
Yeah, and really bringing it into part of the social fabric. I was talking last year when we were virtual with Achilles Mongolia, and they were talking about how important it was for them to run through the streets of New York, and what it means to, and we think about what it means to actually move through the streets of New York. It's really powerful, and it's a celebration of New York identity, ability. It's strength. New York strong is like a big identity of local New Yorkers. So I think you're right. There's just so much more than just sports. Sports can always be a lever for change. And that's why we love it when, as you said, folks are really willing to commit to not should this be done or should not, yes or no, but how do we get it done? What are the logistics and how can we actually just knock it out? Jess, what's your take? What has worked for you? What do you think we need more of? And what should folks be aware of and on the lookout for?
I just wanted to go back to the point too when everyone's talking about community, and that's really so important with Achilles and going to the workouts. I mean, when I show up to the workouts, it's the least disabled I feel because everyone else is similar to myself. Everyone helps each other. There's just this like aspect of community that I don't get other places in my life. That's just, it's such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I think that community is one of those things that feels like maybe it's like an extra add-on, and we don't give it the credit for how it is it is the thing that drives, as we said, showing up in the rain, showing up in light snow, showing up in bad weather to really get out there and run, and that's sort of a universal feeling to get to participate like that. Paul, what is one thing that you would hope to see with this race in the future? Or what is, you've seen this race for many years now, and you've been connected to Achilles for many years now. What is one hope you have for the future of this race?
Wow, that's a loaded question because what I would say is I would want to grow this event to be one of the largest events in the country, in the world, that's participating with athletes of all abilities, including those impaired and those not. Unfortunately, just due to the environment that we live in, we can't just grow an event and just have the biggest event in the world. What we want to do is we want definitely for the future of this event is just to ensure that there are avenues and opportunities for people of all abilities to participate in this event as well as all of our other events.
All right, I love it. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, that was super loaded. I'm like, Paul, what are your hopes and dreams for the future? But I'd love to go to Francesco. And this is also going to go to Jess, and this is going to be one of our last closing questions. I'd love to know what you would say to someone. Let's say you were in a grocery store and they came up to you and they said, I know this group, they're amazing. I want, you should join them. How would you convince someone to come check Achilles out? Let's start with you, Francesco. What would you say to get them to believe that they're not cold, they are a fantastic community of like-minded individuals?
So if I'm in a grocery store and I just so happen to hear someone tapping by me with their cane, I think is right, that's the cue, I'll turn to them and hopefully not so creepily go, hey bro, do you run? Which is basically how I was, approached. And along the conversation, it's so much of the case that, we're taught to not really try new things because new things can be dangerous or it could lead to failure and things like that. And when I say we, myself when I was growing up and stuff like that. And so I would try to impress upon the visually impaired or low vision individual that this is not only something they should try, but it's something they should jump head first into, no cane, full send, and just basically all the benefits, right? It's like, it's again, not just a workout group, it's community, it's advocacy, it's life-changing professional help, mental health, like it's literally everything that's life-changing. And all the things that they would try to convince me not to, or why they shouldn't join, I'd have a perfect rebuttal, because I've done it so often, right? Like my life was changed thanks to Achilles and thanks to all the races that we have going on. And in turn, I've called up basically every single one of my friends and been like, hey, you're in a wheelchair, hey, you're blind, you should come join this group. It's great. They have awesome snacks. They run in the park. Come join us. So, and even if you don't have a disability, we do what we do thanks to volunteers, right? People who don't have disabilities. And so them too, come join us. We have snacks. It's great. It's awesome. We have a race Sunday. You should register.
The snacks. We've got awesome snacks. You've got really good taglines. Come for the disc session happening after the race, and we've got really good snacks. I think that'll get some recruits right there. Jess, what would you say? What would be your words to get folks to give it a shot?
I think I would definitely just approach someone, or if someone approaches me, explain what Achilles is. And I also know that accountability can be hard too sometimes. So I'd be the person where I'm like, here's my phone number. I will join you. We can do this together. Like Francesco said, all my friends are chairs. I'm like, hey, come out, come with me. I'm willing to like go with you. I want you to have this experience. And yeah, I share it with everyone I know. Achilles is amazing.
Yeah, I think we can all co-sign on that one. So if you are in the New York City area on Sunday, June 26th, stop by. We've got a ton going on with our friends at TD as well. There's activation stations. It's a really fun, even if you're not racing, it's a really, really fun race to attend. There's so much good energy. The award ceremony is a lot of fun. So come on out to Central Park. And if you are not in the local New York City area and you want to participate and support, don't forget you can always register for the virtual race and participate from anywhere. I love that we got some shout outs in the chat of folks who are doing the virtual race. And you can do it, you can do the miles either at once or collectively until the 26th. And don't forget to use the hashtag GoAchilles and tag on social media so you can help raise awareness. But to our panelists, y'all are the most fun to talk to on a Thursday night. So Paul, thank you for joining us. And then Jess and Francesco, thanks for joining us. Thanks for dropping your expertise and good luck in your future races. And if you decide to train or not, your choice, but good luck.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you to our viewers for joining us. As always, we appreciate it. And we wish you all good racing and we'll see you later.